Ladies and gentlemen, this is Why Am I a Nerd presents Alpha Beta Gold Games. I'm Cameron James, and joining me, as always, from the beginning, Coffee Now's own, beer later, just Matt.
Thanks. I was going to say, well, yeah, it's from a Breach House Brewery. Shout out. Yeah, I was going to say, there's going to come a time where, as always, Matt might not be able to show up. So.
I know.
And then you got to stop saying that. You're putting me in a bad spot here.
No way, dude. Eventually, if there's as always, we'll figure it out. And our unofficial sponsor is Red Bull Peach.
You can't say that.
Unofficial, yeah, I can.
You can't. Oh, okay. I was going to say you can't say that. And then my water is sponsored by Wegmans.
Yes. And our unofficial water sponsor is none other than Wegmans. So we went to Matt and I, Golden Boys Matt, went up to Somerville yesterday. Went to fucking Comic Fortress.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard of it?
Mm-mm.
In a sense of like comic shop for comic books, I would not recommend it. But in a sense of like action figures and like toys, fucking sick.
Nice.
They had Sideshow, they had Hot Toys, they had all the great stuff, everything I love. So of course I went there, and they had this one figure that I wanted. It was like this Batman Armory set, and I'm glad they had it. I'm glad I looked at it, and I'm glad I didn't buy it because it was like not worth
expensive as fuck.
Well, it was $210, but the figures were this big.
Oh yeah, no thanks.
And for anyone this big, is like half the size of a pencil, and it was fucking no. I was out, so. Wasn't having it, but
yeah.
So I'm still trucking away on Far Cry Primal.
Okay, it sounds like you don't like it, so we don't have to elaborate on it if you don't like it.
No, you know what it is? It's I'm gonna give them a lot of credit for it. Is they like took the idea and ran with it.
Yeah, I mean they took a game about cavemen. Yeah, it's a game about cave people.
Yeah, I have no idea what's happening. I have no idea what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. I just know that I'm this guy that is working for the Wagoos or the Wangoos or the Wanagoos. I don't fucking know. And I had a spear, and I just figured out that you can throw the spear.
Yeah.
Totally missed that.
Yeah.
I recruited myself. I tamed a wolf, a white wolf, a badger who's like a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really it so far.
You get a saber-tooth tiger later. It's pretty fucking sweet.
Do you?
You can ride it. Yeah, you can ride it too, if I'm not mistaken. That's your method of that's your car is a big ass saber-tooth tiger.
See, that's actually what I wanted to touch base on. So the map, the way they did the map, I think is actually really kind of like weird in a good way. Like you'll be like, oh, this thing's like 500 meters away, but their version of 500 meters is like not 500 meters if it was like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, I believe the map is the exact same map from Far Cry 4. It's just 18 million years ago.
Same layout?
I think so, yeah. I think it's the exact same map, if I'm not mistaken. Just obviously Cro-Magnon people time.
I mean, I know. So pretty much the only weapon that you get is a club, a spear, and a bow. I think you can upgrade the bow to shoot like double arrows at one point I saw.
Yeah, you'll get some other little.
I started building my little huts in the area in the community, recruiting my people. I ended up just like running around, and I like end up maxing out my owl right away. So my owl just like swoops down and like one kills everything.
Yeah, it just annoys the shit out of people too.
Does it?
Can, like your owl? Yeah, you can get your owl to like heckle people.
I didn't get that. I got the one where it can take out like elite enemies. So like, I guess it's kind of cheating because like I had to go take down like an elite guy, and I literally just flew my owl in, hit him into the water, and he died. And I was like, all right. Then it's like go.
I mean, it works.
Then it's like go sneak in, and I did not sneak in. I wasn't paying any bit of attention, and I just got crushed.
Yeah.
It's a fun game though. I mean, I'll definitely see it out and finish it. I'm probably 5 hours in, but that 5 hours is also like 5 hours worth of just like roaming around, seeing what the hell I can find.
Right.
So,
and that's what a lot of those games is just kind of fucking around, not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
I do have to purchase Sleeping Dogs this week. It's only $5.
Yeah, that's going to be coming up. It's going to be ending in like 2 days. So
it ends on. I have it in my phone already. I already got my phone when to purchase it. And
definitely do it.
I think Mafia should be next week.
It's like 2 weeks. No, I think it's like 2 weeks away. I thought that was the end of the month.
Yeah, so next week.
But then again, I was going to say, well.
Not this week, like next week.
Yeah, the next week.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see how that scores. Hopefully that scores well because as I said, my disappointment of the year is that Kingdom of Amalur didn't get a perfect 10 on any
you shifted gears so fucking quick from last weekend where it was like Kingdoms of Amalur, and then I sent you the IGN review and you were like, fuck.
Well, you know what it is? I read the review at IGN, like it just pretty much said like it's the same game, it's fun, but it's the same game.
It's just a product of its time. Like there's nothing, they have done nothing new to it. It's just better graphics. That's all it is.
And
slightly,
which will actually, I'm just gonna roll into this and before I ask what you're playing. It kind of looked like a lot of like what they're doing with this. I don't care what anyone says. This new Prince of Persia remake is not a remake.
No, it's not a remake. I wouldn't define it as a remake. I honestly just think they're bringing it up to like sort of because it's going to have that because the first one had that cartoony sort of look to it, but I think that's all it is. I'm not getting it. I love Prince of Persia, but I am not getting it. And of all the games that like a lot of games out there that deserve a remake or need a remake, that was not high on the list. No offense.
No,
I love Prince of Persia. I really do. Like, I would have rather you just fucking tried to reboot it again, but started on the next gen consoles. Just go like that.
It looks like this. It's like it got the same treatment as Kingdom of Amalur. I don't care what it says, but they changed the cast, so I guess they redid all the voice acting for it.
Well, yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it's the same as Kingdoms of Amalur. I'd say it looks better overall than Kingdoms of Amalur because they really just kind of polished up what they had. They've definitely tweaked some things. Because if you look at the character models,
they look like shit.
I'm not saying they look good. You're missing the point. I'm saying it looks definitely much different than it did from 2000 and fucking, what was that, 2 or 3 that came out? Probably. That's almost 20 years old. So it definitely looks better, but it does not look good by any stretch of the imagination.
Which I am, I am confused why they even decided to remake that. Like, who was asking for that game? That game came out in 2003 originally, October 28th. Like, just I feel like they kind of went with like the short end of the stick on it. Like they just didn't. I get it that obviously they probably fully committed to it, but it almost looks like they didn't fully commit because like it looks like if you gave me this game on last gen, I would be like, okay, it looks good. But I think because of the expectations that we have, especially for games like you say, when you remake. If you took the remake of Resident Evil 2 and put it next to this, you'd be like, this game is a fucking disaster.
Well, IGN just did a thing the other day, just a quick little fucking thing they do on Instagram where they're like the top 10 best remakes, like full remakes of games. And of course, Resident Evil 2 is the number one, which I would completely agree.
Was 3 on there?
No, it wasn't even on the list. And I think Final Fantasy VII got like second place, but like, no, I would say in terms of like it really, when I think of a good remake, the first thing that comes to mind is Resident Evil 2. Like that shit was just so fucking out of left field remake, just so good, so goddamn good. That nothing, you kind of set a really big bar or a really high bar for remakes. And it's funny because when people were like, seeing the news about they're like, oh, they're remaking Prince of Persia. A lot of people showed their age and how young they are by assuming it was the 2008 Xbox remake.
I heard about that.
Like, was
cell shaded.
Yeah, it was the one that were like Nolan North was the fucking voice actor for the Prince, and it was like that's what people were assuming that way was that one, not the original. The original was an NES, but the real remake from the NES to the PS2.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm looking at the Prince of Persia titles while they're here because there was a Prince of Persia game in 2010. What the fuck? Forgotten Sands? That's not the one I'm talking about.
No, that actually was really good. I remember that one. I think I have a platinum trophy on that.
Oh God! It kind of looks like it kind of looks like God of War-ish. Like the old school.
Look back on my list while you're the old school.
Rambling. No, never mind. No, it doesn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like. There is something to say about like this cartoony art style. It does. I will say it does age well.
Yeah,
like it's easy to age is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
true. Which
I do have a platinum trophy on that. It was a really easy one. That game is like just literally just play the game.
And the what the fuck is the name of this other Prince of Persia game? The one that's the one with Oh, here it is. It's just called Prince of Persia, and that was in 2008, and it's currently 99 cents on eBay.
Not that good of a game.
The remake one wasn't?
That 2008 one was not a good one.
The cell shady one?
Yeah, not that good.
I thought you said it was.
No.
You're saying the Forgotten Sands wasn't bad.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible.
I mean, what really makes this different? I mean, if this is a remake, shouldn't it really be from the ground up? Isn't this more like a remaster? They're just like repainting it.
I don't know. I feel like the definition of remake these days is a little wishy-washy. How do you everybody defines remake differently?
Like to me, a remake is what you do with Resident Evil 2 or Final Fantasy, which literally take it from the ground up.
Yeah, you're essentially building a new game. What you're basing it off of, but yeah, it's not like you just have pre-existing assets. You're totally starting that shit, from the floor up.
Like you're almost making it where it's like you're making that game for the current generation of people playing it.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did.
Because if they took Resident Evil 2 and just reskinned it, if it looked like Resident Evil 2, like it does now, but played like Resident Evil 2 back in 90,
nobody would like it.
It would be awful.
Yeah, no tank controls.
I hope to never see that again.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of tank controls.
But what have you been playing?
Honestly, really, in the last week, I haven't played much of anything. It's just been watching movies and stuff. This going back to work after the holiday this week was just kind of shit. This was just a really crappy week, so I just hadn't really played anything. But I still have Darksiders Genesis. I was trying to play a little bit of it.
I wanted to ask you about that game because I saw you play it. I saw you play it, and I saw you jump in to play something else.
I just fart around and pick up things just as I kind of go through it. But that's why this week it wasn't really like I wasn't feeling anything, so I was like I don't want to play anything. And then today, I finally don't have anything. I only have a few hours left of my weekend, and now my schedule will be opening up. So I'm going to try to play at least an hour or two of it and just do that. But that's really it. I mean, there's really not a whole lot I need to be playing right now. So
how would you categorize that game?
It's like Diablo.
Is it the same thing?
Yeah, it's just that like isometric. You're running around through dungeons, killing shit and looting for the most part. There's a story to it.
Do you pick the character? Can you swap them out on the fly? I guess what I'm asking.
Well, there's only just the two characters. Yeah, you can just go bang, bang, bang. Yeah.
That was like the game. Remember the game? It was for X. I think it was for PlayStation 2. Kane and Lynch.
Yeah, those games were not much fun.
No, but like I remember first seeing that game, I was like, yo, this game looks like legit. Like 2-player co-op, okay, run and gun, whatever. And then you played it and you were like, this is not good.
Yeah.
And then there was a movie based on it they were trying to make with Bruce Willis and
really?
Jamie Foxx.
What the fuck? That sounds terrible.
It was.
It's so funny when people like they're out there writers and directors that are like, I want to make a video game movie, and I'm a really big fan of that video game. I want to make a movie about it, and then they always make a movie, and it ends up sucking so bad. Like the fucking guy who did all the Resident Evil movies, Paul W.S. Anderson or whatever the fuck his name is. He's like, I love Resident Evil, man. I'm a huge fan of that series. I'm like a walking encyclopedia for it. And then he makes 6 movies that have
nothing
that are just straight fucking garbage. I mean, the first one wasn't bad. That was pretty Resident Evil-y, but then it's just total crap. And then I think now that same guy is fucking doing a Monster Hunter movie, and it looks bad. Yeah. It looks so fucking bad. Just
see, they should have taken the Resident Evil movies and just like made it more like an anthology, I guess, where like, okay,
you make a movie and each movie's based off of each game.
Yeah, but they tie in here and there, obviously, like, and then what would make that cool is like then you like Leon, and then you're not gonna see Leon in movie 3, but then all of a sudden, oh shit, Leon's back in number 4. Like it made they had it all outlined. They had it right in front of them. They just had to fucking. It's like when people make comic book movies. I would talk about it all the time, and they don't. You have the dialogue, you have the script.
Yeah, like, it's already there for you.
What the fuck?
I know you're trying to adapt it for a 90-minute movie or a 2-hour movie, but it shouldn't be that difficult. You have enough material to fit that you can easily find enough to fit into 2 hours comfortably and not have it suck.
And like, I guess my thing too is like when you take a concept and change it completely. Like, are you watching The Boys?
Yeah.
The book and the movie or the show are nothing alike. Like, there's nothing similar.
Mm-hmm.
We just finished The Boys, the graphic novel series finally, and like I was like, first of all, they're not going to do any of this in the fucking show. Second of all, even if they were going to do any of this in the show, it's already they need to figure out another way to do it. Like how far along are you in the new season? You caught up?
I'm caught up. Yeah. Well, don't talk about it in case of spoilers.
No, I'm not going to spoil somebody. I'm not going to spoil it at all. But like, the fact that they wipe out like a major character in like the second episode, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
where are you going with this now?
Yeah.
And I guess too, like, there's some characters I don't understand who they are and why they're there.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's a video game podcast, but whatever, it's fucking nerd shit anyway. Like the blonde girl that Butcher's talking to when he meets her, and she gives him the envelope, and she's like, "Hey, I found the location of your family."
Blonde? You mean Mallory? Why do you say blonde girl? That's like a 70 or 80-year-old woman.
That's Mallory.
The woman who's like the tough, like gruff kind of woman who like, that's fucking
no
Mallory.
way.
Dude, you literally knew that in the first season, you dumb shit.
Wait, that's no way.
Yeah.
So they changed.
What girl are you talking about? Like a young woman or an older woman?
No, the older woman. Yeah, that's Mallory.
Yeah. Oh, you really got to start paying attention.
God. No, because I'm watching the show and I'm reading the book, and Mallory in the book is a dude.
Yeah, and Stormfront's a dude, so you clearly know it's different.
But Stormfront is not even the same character in the book at all. Fuck that. I don't care if it's a dude or not. Like, in the book, Stormfront's like this fucking German psychotic lunatic, and in the show, it's this chick who is obviously somebody else, which you find out later. And I don't know. I'm like so far out of that show. I'm like, all right, like fine. Like, I guess I'll continue to pay attention to it and still watch it. But I'm having a tough time figuring out who's who because I just finished the book and trying to put two and two together. I'm like, okay, I don't really know who the fuck who is, but it is.
I can't believe you.
What?
That's Mallory. What?
Well, did you read the book?
I've read part of it, but I don't really read comics as much as I used to.
Okay, well then there you go. Because they have this whole so do you know who Mallory is?
Yes.
They tell you that?
In the show or in the comic?
In the show.
Let's yes. Okay. Oh my God, dude, then you clearly don't pay attention.
No. Because I don't think wait, you're gonna tell me Mallory is in the show is the leader of the boys.
Was the ex-leader of the boys in the show. They frame it to, dude, then okay, go back and watch the first fucking season again and just pay attention to what's happening in the show. Like there's literally multiple scenes where she's there and they're talking and they're explaining it. You just don't pay attention enough.
I do pay attention. I just pay attention to what I want to pay attention.
Clearly, exactly. No, it's not how it works.
Which something that has caught my attention is the $299 price tag on the Xbox Series S.
That was the big news this week was where all of the little Xbox Microsoft babies were coming in their pants over the fact that Microsoft announced their two consoles. They got a release date. It's November 10th, which is a Tuesday. Why the fuck would you release a new console on a Tuesday? Last time, I think everybody did it on a Friday, which is probably the smarter idea.
Because I bet
you want to be able to spend your weekend.
I bet you Sony gets either released. The PlayStation 5 is either coming out the Friday before or the Friday after. That's my guess.
No, I would think no. They'll either release it the same day just to say fuck you, or it'll be so it's either going to be the 10th, the 13th, the 17th, or the 23rd or 4th. So
Black
it's either
Friday?
Like Tuesday. Black Friday's not the 24th. Is it?
I don't know. But anyways,
the Black Friday is the 27th. So it would either release so it'll release the 10th, 13th, 17th, or 20th. That's my guess.
So have you done your research on it at all, the Xbox? Did you look at the specs?
Yeah.
So here's my big gripe about it. This is like what I've kind of been telling people when they've asked me about it. This is my opinion on it. It's essentially the Xbox One, just it can play next-gen games.
Yeah, I would say it's an X. Yeah, and it's weird because they just said something yesterday or today that says the smaller one, the Series S, can't play. It can't play play Xbox One X enhanced games.
Which is
so you can either play Xbox One games or you can play next gen shit, but you can't play shit right in the middle.
Right.
Which is a little fucking weird.
So if you buy Cyberpunk and you get the enhanced version of it, like obviously you automatically get the enhanced version. I think they said like it'll like enhance,
but you can't play it.
No, so
you have to buy it again. You either have to play it on Xbox One or you have to buy it again then on the.
But
Xbox
I guess the question is, can you? So if you buy the Xbox One version of Cyberpunk and you put it into the Series S, which you can't because there's no disk drive. So if you re-download it onto the Series S, is the game going to try to bump itself up to the enhanced version, or do you think it's going to just be like, oh, I get it, I can play this, but it's going to still look like I'm playing on Xbox One?
Well, no. I mean, I think that's the point of the new consoles is that they'll be able to take something made for a previous gen and it will play, it's like a car. It'll handle better. It'll look better to a degree, but it's not the enhanced version of it. It's not the super duper fancy.
You don't have to buy it twice. If you bought the Xbox One version of
then that's all you've got. That's all you've got then.
Yeah, you don't
get that, and then so that's why I want to correct myself. Yeah, you get that, but you can't play anything better. You're just stuck with that.
Which I am very, I guess what they did, like it has my attention in a sense of like, okay, it's $300 and I could play Xbox exclusives if I wanted to. But at the same time, it's like and I think it's a smart move. I'm actually think it's a really smart move for them. I guess what bothers me is like, you're literally just kind of swapping out the hard drive and saying, hey, here's an Xbox One. We're going to take the hard drive out, put this new hard drive in, and here's the Series S. Like I think it only does like 440, right? Resolution or something.
440 is like N64.
1440.
Yeah, I was gonna say 440 is like above is like Super Nintendo graphics.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, does this help Microsoft kind of gain some steam, or do we think it still kind of keeps it back? Because again, it caught my attention and I was kind of anti Xbox obviously, but I would contemplate getting one now because of this.
I mean, it's not going to make a difference to me to get it, but my feeling is, and maybe this is just an assumption, but like my feeling on it is that this $299 version is not going to sell as well as they think it is. And I think that's part of their plan. I think they're giving this as an option because they want something out there that is more affordable, because it gives everybody and it gives a lot of people, that purchase to say, no pun intended, that they could, they don't have to spend a lot, they don't have to break the bank to be able to play games. But I think that's kind of the point. I think what it's going to drive people to get the X more, but I feel like this thing is probably going to be very cheaply made.
The S?
I get that. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be. I mean, at $299, I don't know. I mean, it's so weird. I'm so conflicted on it. Like, it could be a smash fucking hit for them, and then everybody's got at least an Xbox Series S in their house. But I feel like it's the price tag is great, but I feel like something that's going to have a lot of problems. It's got this giant fucking hole on the front of it for the ventilation, which for a box that small to have an opening for a fan that big kind of scares me a little bit, because then that must mean that this tiny little package is going to generate a ridiculous amount of heat, and they got to vent it out. I don't know. I think it's going to be problematic. I think there's going to be a lot of people getting these, and then they're going to just that's it, and then maybe they're going to it's going to kind of cap off, and then they're going to maybe stop selling it.
You think so?
I'm
going to turn into a virtual boy?
I'm so weirdly, I don't know. And truth, when they showed off the Series X, it's obviously, people joke around, they say it looks like a refrigerator, but it's not a bad looking console. I mean, they both look more like PCs now. Clearly, that's what they are. They're trying to get up to that level, so they kind of look more like PC towers and shit. But the specs of the Xbox Series X is amazing. It's these are, every generation, it's always, these are truly the most powerful consoles ever created. But I think this little Series S, the Series S is just totally, I don't know, man. I'm really not convinced this thing's going to work out well. I'm like rambling. It's like
I have the specs in front. So you figure, so RAM wise, the Series X is 16 gigs and the Series S is 10 gigs. So the Series S is technically RAM wise better than a middle tier PC right now.
Yeah, most people will do. Yeah, I mean, it's 8. Well, yeah, most people go with 8 because they don't really need 16. 16 is kind of like, I feel like if you're doing a lot of,
weird that they gave this
Twitch streaming and shit, 16 is pretty good, and 32 is a little excessive unless you're really, really needing it.
So why give this thing 10 gigs of RAM? Like, why not just go 8? I mean, obviously, they probably would have. Maybe there was like, hey, the price to make it 10 gigabyte, RAM compared to.
I was gonna say, I think the Pro has 16.
So Xbox Series X has 16 gigs of RAM, and the Xbox Series S is 10. So you're saying the PlayStation Pro?
Yeah, I think the Pro has. I'm gonna look that up real quick. I think the Pro has like 16 gigs of GDDR3.
As for the CPU, both the X and the S have the same CPU, which
Oh, it's 9 gigs of RAM on the Pro. So then technically the little baby has 1 more gig of RAM than a Pro. But then I guess that really doesn't come as a surprise. No, I don't know why I thought this thing had 16 gigs of RAM. There's definitely
now. Do you know what memory bandwidth? I don't really know much about what that even means, to be honest with you. But obviously the X is 10 gigabytes and the S is
gigabits.
Gigabits. But then, so it's either 10 gigabits at 560 gigabits per second, or it's 6 gigabits at 335 gigabits a second. Whatever the fuck that means, I don't know. You guys can go Google it. I'm not big on that. Like I said, the CPU is the exact same on both units. The GPU, so the graphics card, are different. So the X is 12 teraflops, and the S is only 4, which is a pretty big difference.
Yeah, but I think that's. I feel like that was Microsoft's big ass selling point, and everybody always goes so hard about talking about how many teraflops you can do. It's a good detail, but that's in big picture. There's a lot of other things you need to take into consideration.
Here's the big thing, and this is the one that got me the most out of all this stuff, is their video output. So on the X, it's native 4K with 8K support and up to 120 frames per second. Okay, no one has a fucking 8K TV, and no one's making a fucking video game in 8K anytime soon. Let's be honest for a second here. And then the video output for the S is 1440p, 4K support through playback or upscaling of up to 120 frames per second. So realistically, the big price difference between these two games is because of the RAM and because of the graphics card. And honestly, like, again, I have a 4K TV, but I'm not getting an 8K TV anytime soon. So why would I listen, I'll just say that for anybody out there who, most people I know at this point have some kind of 4K television because we all game. If you've got a 4K television, there's absolutely, unless you just want to get a new TV to upgrade, there's no reason for you to get the latest, greatest, most expensive television for when these new consoles come out, because it's not utilizing the technology. Like, okay, it can upscale to 8K, but are you really going to fucking know the difference? Probably not. It was the same thing between last time where it was like certain, games being upscaled to 4K very early on in this generation, the current generation. And it was like, you really can't tell. Like, it's not, you're not that good. Your eyes are not that good that you're going to be able to tell the difference. And no offense, if you're choosing 4K over performance, you're missing the bigger picture there. I don't need it. All these games already fucking look good. They're only going to keep looking even better, but I want them to perform better. I don't need it to just keep looking so super hyper realistic every time. I need it to just fucking play well. That's what I want. So, because I guess that's actually a good question. Do you think that games have been leaning too much into making themselves graphically look amazing? Because you can say that like a game like what was I just talking about? Like The Last of Us, it plays well, it looks amazing, but it's loud. I mean, again, maybe because I haven't cleaned my fan, but it's not a game that's like gonna, it's a game that pushes the system to the limit. And if you scaled back the graphics on that game a little bit, you probably wouldn't be able to tell. I mean, there's the big argument that people have every now and then where they're like, oh, the game didn't finish and didn't look as good as it did when they previewed it. And we've even talked about it before where it doesn't look like the same game. They definitely did some stuff differently. But obviously that game is going to look better on the Series X than it did if it was playable on the Series X. On the Series X than it would on an Xbox One. So it'll be interesting to see now what happens with Sony going forward from here, because with them dropping these price tags, there's such a big difference. Does Sony now come back and just be like, hey, we just have to do something in the middle here? Both consoles are $400. Or do they still say, fuck it, one's $450, one's $500?
Well, there has to be a price difference, because there needs to be, even if it's a small amount. Because if you release two consoles and you say, yeah, they're both the same price, one's got a disc drive and one doesn't, most people will probably just go with the disc-based one then, because they have the option. There's no reason for them, even me, somebody who does everything digital, if they were both the same fucking price, I would probably just get the disc-based one, because then it allows me that option. But if they say it's $50, it's $100 cheaper, well, then even better, because everything I've done this generation is basically digital, apart from I can maybe like a dozen games over the course of nearly 10 years now that I've done physically. But I there has to be some kind of price difference.
Do you think it's going to be $100?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was reading an article on Reddit this morning that said that there's a very unreliable source out there that said that the console is going to be $600, but then the person is the worst, because it's one of those Wall Street like insider people, and the text was perfect. They're like, it's going to launch at $600, but it also could be $500, but then there's a small chance that it could be $400. Like, this asshole literally just covered as many possible bases as he could to make it so that any one of those things that comes out, he could say, look, I was right.
I don't think they can charge 400 or 600.
600, I think would have been the top for either one of these companies to say, here's the top of the price tag. I don't think, in truth, Sony will do 600. I think their top would be 500. And I think now that they know what Microsoft did, if they want to be smart, they could say, okay, well, yeah, we've got a $400 console, and then we've got a $300 console as well. Like, if they want to do it, they can, because they know, like, hey, listen, we'll take a loss on the consoles, but we'll make it back. It's like, Jason had kind of texted us before he said he might not be on, but he kind of mentioned the right thing. They might take a hit on the consoles, but then whatever they're saving in terms of manufacturing on discs for games, and then of course people buying first party titles, it's just money straight in their pockets. They don't have to go through, vendors for digital shit. So they'll figure it out. They'll be okay.
I mean, do you think that Microsoft is going to, do you think Sony's scrambling right now to be like, oh shit, if they were overpriced? Do you think they were aware that Xbox had this little trick up their sleeve?
I think they probably had all of their possible pricing options ready to go.
You think so?
Long before this ever happened. Yeah. I mean, listen, you don't go through years and years of R&D building a console that's costing your company probably billions of dollars to just make this fucking thing. And then you get close to a point where you got to start saying, here's what the price tag is going to be, and not knowing what it's going to be. That's just bad business if they didn't know how much it was going to cost. I mean, I think they said that the bill of materials for it cost like $450 to make a PS5. $450. So at the very least, this thing needs to be $500 if they want to turn somewhat of a profit on one version of it. But more than likely, usually, I think it's happened across pretty much every generation, is that they're at the beginning, the first year or two, you're always at a loss on the consoles itself until you realize that it's your games, your everything else offsets the cost of your losses from the consoles. But I don't think Microsoft is going to be making much money on either one of these consoles either. They're going to be definitely at a loss to some degree on both.
Well, I guess my argument to that is kind of like, Microsoft, their Xboxes, they're boxes. They're square boxes. There's no curvature. It's just a box. Did somebody shoot themselves in the foot making this thing that looks fancy? Like, I get it. When it first got revealed, people were like, oh, I'm going to put this out on my desk. I'm going to show it off. Like, no one's it's going to go in a fucking drawer, in a cabinet, under your TV, where you're probably not going to see it. So why didn't they just make this fucking PlayStation a square? Why didn't they just go back to, like, you could say that, like the PlayStation 2 Slim, PS2 Slim, like, it was just a box. It was a fucking square box. It was raised off the ground a little bit. Like, why not just do something like that again? Like, you're not showpiecing this shit. This isn't a fucking
it's
160 action figure.
You're taking into account the fucking Xbox One. I hate their fucking names. I'm just calling it the X. The fucking refrigerator looking thing. It looks like a fucking refrigerator. It looks like a refrigerator or a shoebox. That's what it. There's nothing special about it. But to make something that is visually appealing to a consumer. But you have to make it effective. The biggest, I think that's one of the biggest design challenges that these guys had this time around, was making sure these things don't burst into flames with the technology they're trying to put in it. And I think part of I haven't seen any kind of schematics for the PlayStation 5, but I'd very much like to. And I'm hoping that after this show that got coming up on Wednesday, when at this point, if they do not announce pricing, the release date, or anything at this show, even I will say that is going to be really fucking bad, because we're less than 10 weeks out from November to be launching these fucking things. You've got to say something now. Get shit or get off the pot. But the design, it's to make these things so that they can cool themselves. So I think with the PlayStation, it's like this when you look at it on the top. So it's going to bring in the cool air, and like that's how I pictured in my head. Like that's the reason why it is designed the way that it is to factor in cooling itself. But obviously that could be total bullshit. But in truth, you look at it and you go, yeah, that's cool. That looks like a fridge. The PlayStation 5 looks like a really fancy looking router. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I just want it to do it's something really cool. That's what it needs to do. It needs to show up on my TV and show me what it can do.
So you think that I guess so they're obviously releasing both Xbox X and S on the same day, November 10th, that we said. Can you picture yourself? You can picture yourself going into Walmart, Target, Best Buy, and you're going to see stacks of, essentially what I'm getting at is, you think there's going to be stacks of S's, but there's going to be no X's. So stupid. It sounds so dumb.
No, I know. I really, that's not my PlayStation pride coming out. That's just the naming for Xbox. Once after the 360 became the dumbest shit ever. It is the hardest to keep track of what the fuck is what. But no, I think there will be, they might sell a lot of S's initially. And then I think after people get it, they're going to realize that it's maybe not that great, and word of mouth is going to spread. And then it's just going to put more into the sales of the primary console, which is what I would think that Microsoft would want. They want to give people the option, but of course they want people to spend more money. They want them to get the latest, greatest, most hardcore piece of tech they've got.
I think so go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I think the S is like the perfect thing for like a fucking college dorm room, or like a kid. Yeah. That's what I think is, that's the base for it, is like somebody who just wants to play the game, but they need something affordable. So it's the perfect thing for like a college dorm room or a young child where, like I wanted to get my son something, but I don't want to get him something so super hardcore.
Matt does not have kids.
I do not have kids. I
for the record,
definitely do not have kids.
For the record.
I think that's kind of what that's the base for it. Like just somebody who wants to game a little bit, but it doesn't want to spend so much money because maybe they really don't do it all the time, kind of thing.
And it might, again, it could be interesting to see, because it could again, the ball could slightly move towards Xbox's side, because again, if you have a kid that's 10 years old, 8 years old, 12 years old, even 15, you could probably say, they probably aren't too toned in with, you got the occasional person that like knows everything about it, but you could arguably say that a parent might go buy a game and be like, hey, my kid wants this new Xbox, series, whatever the fuck it is. You haven't? They could be like, yeah, I have the X and the S. And a parent's probably going to be like, oh, I don't know. They just want the new one. And if a GameStop employee is probably gonna be like, well, there's one for $500 and one for $300. The parent's probably going to be like, oh, let's take a
$300 one. Exactly. That's also going to be
right.
Because it was the same fucking problem with, what was it? The Xbox One after like the Xbox One S came out. And then it was like, well, which one do you want? Do you want the regular one or do you want the slim one? Well, what's the difference? You're going to get grandparents buying the wrong thing, and there's going to be a lot of fucking returns and just shit that the fucking marketing is so confusing. Granted, with this one, you could say, well, have you seen pictures of it? I have. Do you want the black one or do you want the white one? That might be the easiest thing. But otherwise, you're going to have a lot of people getting the wrong fucking thing for their kids or their grandkids or their nieces and nephews. And that's going to cause a lot of returns to be coming through to these fucking stores because it's like, shit, I didn't get the right one. And
do you think a lot of like if I worked at Best Buy and I'm not working on commission, if a parent came up and said, hey, my kid wants an Xbox, blah, 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 I would probably be like, look, this one does this one does that. You probably don't have an 8K TV at your house, so don't spend the extra $200. Just get the kid this. Yeah. Well, the kid really wants this. The kid only wants this because it's expensive.
That's why they think that's what they want. We were kids once. We know it in retrospect because hindsight's fucking 2020.
It's like, and honestly,
we were idiots.
Yeah, and honestly, it's like I was talking to this guy Chris that works for me. When Alienware had that discount, it was like an i9 top of the line fucking i9 processor, whatever it was, top of the line like the RTX Max, whatever the fuck it was. It was a $4,000 gaming laptop. They did a flash sale. It was like $1,700. And I was like, oh, I should do this. I don't have the money to do it, so I didn't do it. But now I'm like looking at PCs that are at comparison to what $1,700 is. I was like, fuck, I should have just got the super expensive one. Because, granted, my point is that you're going to get you have these people that go out and get these souped up gaming PCs, and you can't fucking tell the difference because there's no game that's running at, 16K, wherever the fuck they're at now. Yeah.
That's why I see what you mean because there's that's why I don't think I could ever really super invest in a high end PC because I don't need to play something at the absolute most it doesn't have to be the highest fucking settings. I just need it to be to perform well. And that can happen with a lot of games. With Last of Us 2, there are points where it gets a little stuttery. The texture doesn't pop. I just want that to be improved. And I think that I'll be getting that with this generation. I don't need to spend fucking $3,000 on a PC that I have to run glycol through to keep it fucking cold.
I think the thing too with PCs, why their people like the graphics so much more enhanced is like, you're right up against the screen. I'm right against my PC screen right now. Like if this was a little fuzzy, which, your camera is actually cleaner than mine somehow. But like, you could tell rather than me sitting back, you're not really going to be able to tell as much. So maybe that has something to do with this too. Who the fuck knows? Yeah. But the moral of the story is I think that this was a smart play for Microsoft, but it'll be interesting to see how well it does on the shelves and how well it does for their sales in Christmas. You could say they might be like, hey, Microsoft outsold fucking Sony this Christmas by, 5 units to 1. And that could be the case if Sony comes out and goes, look, our systems are $500 and $450. That's a huge gap. $150 goes a long way. It's
a massive gap. Sure.
So, it may help their sales based on units sold, but it may act, like you said, it may end up being a shot in the foot or a cancel, or they might end up, coming out. Because what's going to happen this time next year. They're going to be like, oh, here's the new Xbox Series SS, which is like
right. It's super small, super slim,
and now it plays enhanced. Because I think that I think they'll get a lot of gripe behind that, and someone's gonna be like, "All right, it's gonna cost us an extra $15 to put the chip in that makes it enhanced," and someone's gonna be like, "All right, why don't we just fucking do it then?"
And that'll be not to just get shitty on Xbox. That'll be the same thing that's likely to happen with the PS5 at some point within 2 years of release. There will be the PS5 Slim, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if they'll do a Pro because I don't know if the tech is really going to jump that much in 2 years that they can justify releasing a Pro. but I will say there will be a smaller version of it. But the question is, will the smaller version be the same thing as the PS5, or will it sacrifice some hardware to be smaller? And then you go, okay, well, in the past, I've done those like slimline ones and, gotten the Pro and whatever. But if it's not a bump up technologically speaking, and it's smaller, I might not get it right away, because if it's just smaller, it's okay. I can deal with it because I already know this thing's going to be fucking big. So, okay, I'm committed to that. But, I just want them to start telling me the news. Whatever I got to pay is what I got to pay. I'm just concerned at this point about getting one. That's it. I just want to know if I'm getting one. And of course, if I don't get one at launch, I'm not going to shit my britches over it and be angry because I don't have a PlayStation 5. I'll just fucking wait, because it's not like I don't have things to play on my PS4. So
yeah, I mean, the only game you might not be able to play was it Godfall?
Spider-Man. Like, I can wait to play Spider-Man, because that's the other beauty of it too.
That's March. Isn't that March of next year? Oh no, that
is literally holiday of this year. Yeah,
that's Spider-Man adding to the Marvel game.
No, Miles Morales is
I know
out
that
at Christmas.
No, I know. I'm saying I'm saying in March.
The Avengers one. Yeah.
But before we get into games of service, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
Why Am I a Nerd podcast network has been brought to you by our sponsor, Me Moms. The best breakfast and lunch down the Jersey Shore with 3 great locations in Wall Township, Middletown, and Brick, New Jersey. Me Moms specializes in unique and fun takes on your traditional lunch and breakfast items. Open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can find more information at www.memoms.com.
All right, we're back. Now we're going to talk about. We're going to go right into what we were talking about. We mentioned Marvel's Avengers before. We're going to talk about games of service.
Yeah.
So I have mixed feelings about games of service. Mm-hmm. Pretty much, it's games of service to me seem like they do one thing really, really well, and that's not executing the two parts together. Like the single player and the end game stuff never seem to line up very well. And all games of service, I think, do that. If you look at a game like Marvel's Avengers, we'll talk about that real fast. They're claiming that there's going to be 15 characters in this game at some point. Free characters. But if you get 15 free characters, which means you pretty much are going to have 15, you could probably say 3 characters throughout the whole game that end up playing the same, because it's just a different skin. Obviously, they've already built the things for it. But if I don't beat the main story, and if I want to jump right into the end game of it, now what? I can't jump in. I can't play as all 15 characters. I have to beat the 10-hour long story. What Destiny, I thought, did pretty well when they released Taken King was that they gave you that booster if you bought the game new. And I missed this.
Well, they always do that now, but in some way, shape, or form.
They boost you to be able to play the end game stuff and play all the characters.
Well, no, what they do, that boost that you're talking about was basically just to get you to a point where you could play the new content right away instead of having to
it's that level
play normally to get to that point, playing it legitimately. They do that every time now that you come, just before launch, there's always like some kind of little fucking, a drop of light, they call it, or something fanciful, where it boosts you up just to the baseline to be able to participate in the new content shit. Like, Beyond Light comes out in November at some point. I haven't been on Destiny in a while. I'm definitely behind the light level needed, but literally it's one of those things where you don't even need those little drops of light or shit, whatever the fuck they want to do. Because once the new content comes out, if you just go fight the most basic ass enemies and kill them, they'll drop basic gear that's probably shittier than what you've got, but the strength of that thing will be exponentially higher than what you have. So you can just, in a matter of minutes, you can be there. It doesn't take long anymore, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, they did do a good job with that back. Taken King was easily the best DLC they did.
Because I guess the problem that I have and that I run into is that, when you play these games, like for Division, like everything about Division screams a game that I would like. It's military based, it's a shooter, it's a looter game, but everyone's like the end game. But to get to the end game, I got to grind through this bullshit story mode that makes no fucking sense. Like, when do you say that would be like, when do these guys separate and be like, okay, like World of Warcraft, you don't have any of that bullshit. Even Elder Scrolls Online, it's just like, here it is. Here's the online, go into it. You know, you have the story going on simultaneously as all the online with your friends and just move on. You don't have to worry about this bullshit. Like, why do games as a service not really actually separate the two of them? Realistically, you can kind of say, like, I get it. Like, games as a service is supposed to be, that's supposed to be, you know, end game, grinding for loot, get the coolest thing, something that, you know, the developers constantly kind of supporting. But at the same time, they just don't ever seem to line up. Like, can you name a game that had a good single player and, you know, end game at the same time? Like,
well, I've only played so many games that I would consider games as a service, but
well, you could say Fallout 76, which I didn't play, obviously. You could say
I never played that. But that's what I'm saying is I can only speak so much to ones that I've played that they don't. No, they do some things really well and some things really not well. And I understand you're never going to hit everything perfectly, but it's very disparate with how it's done. Like, it's, wow, you know, you're this aspect of your game is so good, but you're really fucking garbage at this aspect of it. And you should at least try to be slightly less garbage, or just okay. Just okay is fine. But, you know, being completely shit on one end and totally awesome on another just sucks. Because then
what I thought Battlefront 2 did really well is that they gave you a campaign. It was like 3 hours long. It was pretty much just like, here's what the game's going to be. Go train, go play the storyline, learn how the mechanics work, learn to fly, you know, learn to shoot. Like, they give you the sneaking aspect, the shooting aspect, the flying aspect, all in this little short campaign. And then they're like, okay, good luck. Go into what the game is supposed to be, which is like a Battlefront type thing. Why not do the same thing with these? Like, hey, Marvel's Avengers, instead of this 10-hour long campaign that, I get it, people have said that the campaign is actually pretty good. Why not just give me, hey, here's a 4-hour tutorial, and then the story is actually what this online-based thing is? Because I think Elder Scrolls Online does that, and we talked about it, you know, shows before this, is that Elder Scrolls Online has actually became a decent game now. They fixed themselves.
They did. That game has pulled a fucking complete 180 and is just, the business is booming for Elder Scrolls
Online. But not for Fallout 76, because I think they're a little too late to the party.
They definitely fucked that one up big time. That they monetized that shit so heavy and just they monetized the broken game. So
what do you mean?
That game was broke as shit when it came out. Like, it didn't work. Nothing worked right. It was really fucking bad, and they just monetized the shit out of it. I remember there was like a skin that you could get, and you know, their currency is like atoms. Okay, they're like their premium currency is called atoms or whatever, and it literally costs like $75 for a fucking skin, and
like human money, our money.
Yes, real world IRL money.
Wow,
it's like $75 or some horse shit like that. And I just, you know, I have my issues with microtransactions, but that was unbelievably stupid. You're selling this game to people for $65 at the very least. It's broke as shit, and you're charging people out the ass for a fucking skin.
I mean, would you rather see games as a service be free to play, like Warframe? And then
I think that's the best kind of game as a service, is the one where it is free to play and the payment aspect of it is for shit like that. I think that is the best version of a microtransaction. You know, for microtransactions, that's the best kind of venue for microtransactions. You're putting your game out there. It's free. Anybody can play if they want to, but there will be lots of shit in our store that you have to pay real money for, and that's okay. It's really bad when games as a service like Destiny or, you know, Fallout 76 make you pay full price for a game. You're paying large amounts of money for extra content, DLC, and then they have these other separate, like, predatory microtransactions that you pay out the ass for on top of it. Like, Call of Duty is so bad with their microtransactions, it's crazy. It's you know.
But they separate the two of them. You're either playing Call of Duty because you like the campaign, or you're playing because you want to, play online with your friends.
Right.
So they do separate, and their campaigns, you could say, they're bubblegum, popcorn, Michael Bay style movies, essentially. But at least they put. It just seems like Call of Duty puts a little bit more time and effort into their single player game. And even Titanfall, I know Titanfall 2 is one of the best, they say, first-person shooter campaigns out there. And you could say that game was mostly driven to be a online-based game.
Right.
So I guess my thing is, should these guys really be, first of all, should Marvel Avengers have just been named Marvel Online, Marvel Avengers Online? This is supposed to be an online game. We want you to play with your friends. But here's this 10-hour story mode that the story might make sense, but the gameplay on it is awful, and it's repetitive, and it's boring. And that's where I guess the thing is, The Division. I like The Division. Again, I should like The Division, but I can't get past more than 5 or 6 hours into that single-player campaign without being like, this is not what I want. I want to be a game where
bad. Yeah, it's boring.
I should be able to be. I want to be in a game that's similar to Elder Scrolls Online, World of Warcraft, where I see other people running around, or I have a main little hub. And because in Division, you really only see people running around when you're in those bunkers underneath, and you see 4 or 5 people standing there. And then somehow you run out in the open, and they're just not on the same map or server as you. It's just what? Where's the disconnect? And why is nobody saying, does it have to do with how many people are on the server? Does it have to do with how many people are in servers? Who the fuck knows? I don't know anything about that aspect of things. But it just seems like they can't pull the trigger and make the right move with games as a service. And I don't understand why they're getting so distant from themselves.
Yeah, it's very discordant, because I don't think, anybody that's making, the people that are making these games, the developers and then the higher ups, there's a lot of miscommunication, and just no one can agree on what this thing is trying to be or what it should be. I think is another issue too. It's just a fundamental issue with the companies that are trying to make it. They don't know. They have a vision of what they want it to be, and then this person has a vision, and that person does too. But nobody can agree on what it's supposed to be. It's just, I don't know.
It's they can easily take the 10 hours, the 10-hour campaign, however long it takes them to build and design these 10-hour campaigns. They can easily take that money and just feed it to the online aspect of things, and just be like I said, hey, here's the Division Online. You go into fucking New York City. There's a fuckload of people running around. They obviously you can't shoot each other because this is the nice area. But if you go to that part of New York City, it's the fucked up area, which they do. I forget what they call the 2 zones. Dark zone. So, but it would make more sense. You see people running around, you help somebody out, you dip out, yada yada yada. Same thing with the Marvel game is I guess where they fall short is that it's not really open world. It's kind of more hubbed,
yes,
Destiny. So you can't just go to a world and run around and see other people. It's not like DC Universe Online, and that's what I picture when I picture games as a service. Something like DC Universe Online, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy was 14. 15?
14. Yeah, it's Realm Reborn, it's called.
Yeah. Those to me are the games that should be games as a service and should be more how they should be focusing on it, where it's here's this open world, here's the story, you see a bunch of other people running around. I get it that the loophole is kind of okay, if you're playing with your friends and you beat a level and you don't have it yet on your, I think Borderlands does that. If you beat a mission but you haven't picked it yet, it actually beats it on your thing when it pops up. Doesn't it do that?
I don't know.
I forget.
Maybe.
But that's just my opinion. Again, when I heard 15 characters to Marvel, you already have 6, I guess, on there now. Plus you have, Hawkeye, you have Kate Bishop, and you have Bishop's name. Kate Bishop, right? That's her name. And then you have, Spider-Man for, Sony, which take away Spider-Man. Now you have 8 characters. What other 8 characters is Marvel possibly going to throw in there?
Right.
It'll be interesting to see. Maybe I know a lot of people have heard not rumors, but mentioned this would be the perfect opportunity to bring the X-Men in. But this would also be the perfect opportunity for them to just make a fucking Xbox game or X-Men game that's similar to this. Rather than bringing them in here and doing some half-ass oh, here's the X-Men. This is what you guys all wanted. Yeah, but it's not the X-Men storyline that anybody wants.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of it's kind of pointless because you spend this entire game introducing Inhumans to it, which is kind of like Marvel's other side of mutants, you know?
Theirs?
Yeah, well, no, I mean that's what you know. You have your mutants, you have your X-Men, they're mutants. They have a gene that gives them powers, and then you've got Inhumans, which are people who are exposed to Terrigen Mist, and it makes them go into a cocoon, and when they come out of the cocoon, they've got a fucking power. So, I mean, it's kind of already what it is. So, I mean, it feels like that would just be redundant. Like, oh, by the way, we spent this whole game introducing this guy who can shoot fireballs out of his hand. Now here's fucking Iceman. He can shoot ice out of his hands.
Yeah.
There's that guy. There's that guy.
I mean, I think an X-Men game is overdue, and I think it's needed, and I think they just need to do it the right way. And I'm hoping if they took some influence from, you know, DC Universe Online, and if they took some influence from apparently what the Marvel's game is, it would probably work. But if they're going to do it, drop the single player aspect, drop the end game, just put it all together and call it a fucking day. I'm about to sneeze.
Boom, bless you.
God, I'm going to edit that out. But yeah, that's just my thoughts, and that's really all I got about that. So
yeah, I was going to say, I know, actually, funny enough, that Cyberpunk is doing a separate game. They're doing a Cyberpunk like online, where they said it'll kind of be almost like GTA, where it's like, yeah, hey, you know, like we have that main game. Well, you know, you'll have just, you know, Night City, and you can all run around and just fuck around with each other. And I think that's going to be fun because I've seen Project Red. Fuck yeah. And I know, and CD Projekt Red too, because there was some controversy in the last week about that, where people were like, uh-oh, Cyberpunk has microtransactions. And they were like, whoa, hold up. Cyberpunk does not have microtransactions. Cyberpunk online multiplayer thing that we're working on that is like 2 years away at least will have some microtransactions, but nothing too crazy. And that's fucking fine. If they do skins and something like that, that's cool. But they're like, yeah, it's a totally separate thing. Fine. I'll play the shit out of that, I'm sure. So
that is the next big game.
Yeah. I'm very excited. Well, I'm pleased. I've been excited for that since they announced it. And that'll just be that'll be nice. But I think
I'll clean my fans before I play that game.
Well, I mean, depending on, you know, it's supposed to be coming out. Isn't it? They said it's November that it's coming out, so you might not even need to. You might just be able to get it on your PS5. I would potentially wait to play that.
Really?
Just on a PS5. Yeah, I've been mulling that idea around a lot lately, where I'm like, do I absolutely need to 100% play it on a PS4, or if I don't have one, can I wait the time out to just play it on a PS5, like straight up? So.
I think based on how close it's getting released, I would actually probably agree with you on that. You know, it's coming out pretty close to the launch window anyway of the other consoles, where if I have to wait an extra month or two to play it, I'm not going to lose sleep over it because that'll be.
You'll have other things to play.
Yeah, and hopefully that's my busy season for work anyway. So.
Yeah.
But once again, this is Why Am I Nerd presents Alphabetical Games. You can follow us on Instagram at Why Am I Nerd Official, Facebook.com/Why Am I Nerd. Listen to new episodes every Monday on YouTube and your favorite podcast service. So until next time, I'm Kevin James. That's just Matt. We're out.